Welcome to Ready STEM Go, the show where we'll get to be speaking to some amazing alumni and dive into their STEM journeys and the path that they've taken to where they are today. I'm Mackenzi Oliver, and today we're talking about how to become a leading voice in your industry with Genevieve De Michele. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, lovely to be here. Thanks for having me, Mackenzi.
Not a problem. So yes, this week we are getting to explore Jen's relationship with her career as a civil engineer, how it influences a sense of contribution and connection to her hometown, our very own Brisbane. Genevieve is going to discuss with us some of her successes and setbacks, as well as some secrets and tips as to how to make your own career decision with confidence. I'm Mackenzi Oliver. I'm studying medical engineering at QUT. Our guest today, Jen, is a civil and construction engineer working in infrastructure and transport advisory for government and private clients. Her portfolio includes business cases, procurement, strategy, delivery, advice, commercial advice, and risk management for some of Queensland's largest projects. She's worked alongside Brisbane City Council, the Department of Transport and Main Roads, the Cross River Rail Delivery Authority, and the Queensland Reconstruction Authority to assist them to plan and deliver some major infrastructure projects and across complex programs of work. Wow, I'm very interested to hear more about your work, especially all around us in Brisbane, somewhere I was really excited to move to when I started my degree. So yeah, can't wait to kick off the show.
Thank you. That is a mouthful. You did really well.
No, it's a very impressive CV. So yeah, before we really get into it, we like to start off the show with a little STEM story that we've found that's either epic or inspiring or just crazy. This week I'm going with epic. The story I'm going to share is, so we all know how small atoms are, and very super epic. The QT Materials Science team are working on printing a single layer of carbon atoms, and this is for use in microelectronics. So we're talking such small scale here. And so the little printed 1 atom thick carbon there is going to be used to protect the components from each other's interfering of their electromagnetic radiation. So that has absolutely blown my mind.
That is amazing. That's so cool.
So insane. So what about you? Have you got an epic, inspiring, or crazy story for us today?
Yeah, I went with inspiring. So I read that there's a team at the University of California that have actually created a glove that has sensors on it and it can verbalize sign language. So as people are doing sign language, it can actually speak, I suppose, and they're going to try and use it to not only help people that don't understand sign language to understand it, but also to teach sign language to broader audiences, because it will be much quicker to pick up once you're learning it by ear for a lot of people. So I found that really cool. And they've attached facial sensors as well, because facial expression is really important in Auslan and sign language too. So I just thought that was amazing. So they're patenting that at the moment. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'll be so excited to see if I can get my hands to do more of the talking. Yeah, what a cool, awesome thing to share. All right, so let's kick off. What steered you into a civil and construction degree at uni?
So I started university and engineering not knowing what major that I choose at all. I had no idea which major I'd go into. And the lucky thing is that first year you try a little bit of everything so that you can really choose what your major is. And we were sitting in a civil lab one day, and I'll never forget it, during one of our concrete subjects. So we'd made a concrete cylinder and we were testing it for material strength. And I just felt so comfortable. I felt really familiar. And I was sitting there thinking, why do I feel this way? And I realized that my dad is a builder. So I've actually grown up on construction sites, working around tradies and working around construction in general, and planning and budgeting and scheduling. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I was really inspired by the fact that I used to look at what dad could create from nothing, like these beautiful homes. And I thought, hey, as an engineer, I can create something from nothing on a different scale, whether it be for transport or for roads or for bridges. And that really excited me in that moment. And it had never really clicked before then. So I credit deciding to go into civil and construction from that moment that I was sitting in that concrete testing lab. And I just thought, this is it, which my friends, all thought, oh, how do you know? And it just clicked. I just knew. So that's why I decided to choose civil and construction engineering.
No. Wow, the magic powers of concrete, apparently.
Yes, yeah, definitely the most interesting thing you can be thinking about. But yeah, for me, I loved it. I loved every second of creating that cylinder and smashing it. And I just thought, yep, this is what I want to do. So yeah.
No, absolutely epic. So yeah, you said about all these different exciting opportunities and projects with perhaps doing something in civil engineering. And so many of these things, like you need so many different skills. We've heard about all these diverse skills. What kind of particular skills are we looking for? And how did you get to build those in your own individual portfolio whilst at uni?
Yeah, you're right. So all these different types of engineering do require really broad and diverse skill sets. So we're constantly hearing about these transferable skills and professional skills. And as a student, it's a bit overwhelming, but I took every work experience opportunity when I was at uni to really build up as many broad skills as I could across as many different areas as I could access. So I thought I would use that time to just try lots of different types of civil engineering and the industry, and really then try and build up those transferable skills that I could transfer across into my grad job and my career. So I started applying for design jobs. So I ended up working in stormwater engineering. I was doing subdivision work. I was doing really a lot of civil design work. And then the 2011 floods hit. And I was able to jump into the flood redesign for Brisbane City, which was really interesting. And then that job finished and I decided that I'd like to try some site work. So I applied for a job with a construction company where I ended up doing fly in, fly out work up to Gladstone, working on a marine project up there for a mine. So it was a coal export terminal. I was doing the jetty and the wharf. So not only was I learning about marine construction and piling into the river and that whole side of civil engineering, but I was also learning about the back end of mining and how that all operates and works. So I was able to come back to uni after those stints and really narrow down exactly where I wanted to go as a graduate. And I was able to really think about, I suppose, progressing myself a little bit further than those grads who were only then just trying to think about where they wanted to go at the end of their degree. So I had a really clear idea of the types of stuff I'd really enjoyed working in, and the types of opportunities that I suppose I thought that's really not for me as a graduate. And as well as that, taking that time at university to really network with as many people as you can. I would recommend that to anyone, because those networks, you also learn really powerful communication skills when it comes back to that diverse skill portfolio, but you will use them later on in life. And I think we'll get into that a little bit later, but I really value the networks that I have, and they've taught me some really invaluable skills to take forward in my career.
Yeah, that sounds 100% like those skills that you'll find in those different little opportunities. Just grab them while you can, because yeah, once you get to the end of that degree, you didn't have that moment of looking around saying like, oh, so what's going on here now? Having a bit more clarity and understanding, yeah, where your interests lie, because especially civil and construction, pretty diverse degree to pop out with. Yeah.
Totally is. Like, you can work on infrastructure projects, you can work in design, you can go into construction and work site-based. There are so many different areas you can go into as a civil engineer that it's not as clear cut as just choosing civil and construction as a major and having your path laid out for you. So I recommend to students when I talk to them now to really take that work experience opportunity and get as much and as diverse as they can, unless they absolutely love the first thing that they try, in which case that's great. But I think a lot of people will probably have to try a few different things before they find something they really love.
Yeah. And yeah, that list of opportunities that you went through before, absolutely so interesting to hear about. Like, you had a few different opportunities here and there away as well. Also, but a lot of those opportunities we often see are part of those really massive multinational construction and engineering companies. Did you have anything in perhaps a smaller company, maybe something a bit more niche? And what kind of opportunity did you get out from that?
Yeah, so you're right. There's not only which direction do you go, but there's what size company do you want to work for is a big decision you have to make at the end of graduating as well. So I tried, the design work I did was quite smaller companies that I worked in, but then when I was doing the construction work, it was for a big multinational company. And as a grad, I decided that I kind of preferred those smaller companies. And there are a few reasons as to why that is. But I found that the smaller companies, you're actually getting really amazing business development skills at the same time as you're developing your engineering skills. So as somebody that loves entrepreneurship, I found that fascinating. I was able to get involved in the tendering for the works that we would do for our clients. I was also doing budgeting for the company, scheduling for the company, recruitment, branding, all these kinds of areas that if you go into these larger multinational firms, there's almost departments for, and you really don't get a lot of exposure around that. So that was really fun. And in my time now since graduating, I've been a part of 3 startup engineering companies, which has been really exciting and given me some really amazing opportunities. So secondary to that, I suppose, was the fact that working in those smaller firms, you have direct access to people that were once general managers or really high up in their big multinational firms, but now you're in this really linear, flat structure. So an example of that is my first day as a graduate. I was seated next to somebody that used to be the general manager of a big multinational construction company. And he was my direct report, and being able to pick his brain and just learn from him by osmosis and sitting next to him and seeing the way he approached meetings and the way that he actually presented himself at work was totally invaluable for me. And I never would have had that exposure in any of those larger companies. He would have just been so much higher than me, and I would have probably been so nervous talking to him as a graduate. Whereas in that environment, it makes it really comfortable. And I credit that to how quickly I've been able to progress through my career. The fact that I've had really close relationships with these people that have just been so willing to share their wisdom and advice, and just incredible skills that they could transfer onto me, which I'm really grateful for. And thirdly, I suppose flexibility and control. So these smaller firms, you can pick a little bit more the types of work that you want to do, and you actually can choose to have exposure over a really broad range of things because you aren't departmentalized. So you don't go into one department and work in there and then transfer to another. Your almost flexibility needs to be a key skill you have in these small companies because you need to be super adaptable and open to change. So I've really enjoyed that about working in a small firm. So it's been great for me.
Yeah, so yeah, you got all those extra skills, those awesome desk buddies. Like, yeah, I think the opportunity of just being able to, yeah, be next to someone who has had those really high ranking positions and things, like you said, you wouldn't have been exposed to being in the same meetings and being in the same conferences as those people. That would have been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's truly incredible. And they're still some of my closest mentors to date, these people that I've worked with, and having them there to just as a sounding board to run things past is amazing and invaluable. And yeah, the fact that they were at that stage of their career where they'd stepped down from those multinational jobs, they were willing to share advice and they had the time to do that. So I would encourage young engineers to try smaller firms and not count them out, because you get such a great range of skills from working in those spaces.
Yeah, and those, as you said, really flexible skills, those really transferable skills that, yeah, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to get if you had a very specific department, perhaps. So, yeah, really interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've gotten to hear so many of your awesome successes, some of those really cool opportunities that you've had to have. What have you had any really roadblocks or any setbacks? How have you kind of been able to bounce back from those sort of events in your career path?
Definitely. So it's not all roses, and I've had some troubles over the past few years, but a couple of years ago, I did have kind of a major health crisis, I suppose, that had me staring at a lot of unknowns. And I didn't even know if I would be able to continue doing engineering in the pace that I was operating at. It's a pretty high stress career and it's very full on. And I was looking down I think I was 4 years out of uni, so I was still so green really out of uni. And it was proposed to me that maybe I couldn't continue doing engineering because of everything that was going on. And that was terrifying for me. That was a major setback. But I suppose I also saw it as an opportunity. Once I'd gotten over the initial shock of what do I do, I used that as an opportunity to take some time away and regroup. So I did end up leaving and going into a part-time job that I totally enjoyed, and it was in a parallel stream of work. So it still wasn't totally removed from STEM or engineering, but it was only made available again because of those amazing networks that I'd made when I was at university. So coming back to that, it always comes back to those foundations that you set yourself while you're studying or you're at uni are so important. So I took that job, and it really cemented for me, I think within 3 or 4 weeks, I missed engineering so much, and it just cemented that that's where I'm meant to be. And also really reaffirmed for me that there are certain types of projects that I have special interest in, and I should really try and go for those projects where I'm passionate about. So it was a huge opportunity in hindsight, looking back at it, to say that was a reset. It helped nudge me in the direction that I'm in today. And yeah, even though setbacks occur, I think if you can look for those opportunities from them, it's probably the healthiest way to look at them. But it's also so true that in hindsight, every setback does open doors for opportunities.
Yeah, and a real shake up like that, I guess, yeah, the best opportunity that you can have to really, as you said, like reassess and see which direction you really want to be heading in. Then, yeah, getting to hear that you reignited that passion, like, man, really love engineering. So,
Yeah,
yes.
that's exactly what happened. I was just sitting there one day and I thought, oh, I miss it so much. And being a transport engineer, it's all around you. So you don't really escape it ever. So there's constant reminders of your previous job. So yeah, it was just so good to give me that kick to really reignite my love for engineering and what I do.
Yeah. And yeah, as you touched on before as well, like those networks and things, I think, yeah, just being able to say that engineering is so much of those people moments as well, isn't it? Like getting to build those teams and those networks and connections.
Very much so. I think it's one of the most people-centric jobs that you can have, and it's often not sold that way, but I totally think that everything that we do is for people at the end of the day. It's for society and for people, and when you put people back in the center of it, yeah, it's your foundations of your skills are developed from the people around you, your networks of people. It's such a people-centered job, and I really love that about it as well.
Building on that, how did you get to find this, yeah, voice of clarity in your sector, in your career, in where you are? Like, sounds like, yeah, you had lots of awesome opportunities, but that kind of, yeah, being able to really communicate who you are and who you are as an engineer.
It's a tricky one because I don't think it comes super naturally, and it took a lot of time to really have the confidence to find that voice. So I remember as a grad, obviously you're a sponge at that point. You're really trying to learn as much as you can, and you're almost nervous to speak up because you don't feel as if you've got that experience behind you that can support your points, really. So for me, it was really important in the initial phases to have those really strong champions and teams around me that encouraged me to speak up and encouraged me to present in front of clients from a really early point in my career. But then I think coming back to where I am today, I still feel like I have imposter syndrome sometimes in my job, and I don't think that ever goes away. But I think doing what you love and building this reputation for yourself within engineering, it kind of reaffirms to you that your voice is valid and that people out there are recruiting you or hiring you because they want your voice on this project, which is really exciting to get to that stage in my career. So I'm an associate director now for a company, which is huge. It's really exciting.
Congratulations, that's amazing.
Thank you. It's exciting, and it's come quite quickly. I mean, I'm still only 7 years out of uni. I just had to look at the date. I'm only 7 years out of uni. So it's come really quickly, but I think having that supportive team around me for those first few years and finding people that really were willing to lift me up with them and teach me so much of what they knew gave me the confidence that I could have a voice and that my voice was valid. And even if I didn't always agree with the loudest voice in the room, that my opinion or my voice was still validated and had a place in that meeting or that conversation. And I think also coming back to your why all the time, circling back to why you're here and why you're doing this really helps you to confirm that, yeah, your voice is totally welcome within the space, and it should be. And I think it's now the responsibility of people like myself who has a team that works with me to encourage them and, you know, bring them up the same way I was brought up as well. So if we can keep that cycle going, I think that is a really great thing for the industry.
Yeah. And yeah, it sounds like you're so aware of how valid, like how important it has been to have those opportunities, have your voice heard. So especially in a position like you are now, I'm sure all you're going to be doing is making sure that other people coming up through the ranks of engineering as well do have those awesome opportunities as well.
That's exactly right. It's nice to see grads coming out and kind of giving them that little nudge to be confident enough to say what they're thinking or their ideas, because they have brilliant ideas and often not tainted by the challenges of the project that we're often weighed down by when you're very close to the details. So sometimes having that outside perspective is really valuable, and not being scared to share that with people. If you are an outsider to the project or you're new to a team, definitely voice your opinion, because any supportive person would really, I think that's really brave, and just commend you for that. If you have people that you work with that brush you off, just realize that's not everybody and keep doing it. Don't get, I suppose, disheartened by that, because there will be people out there that have a very traditional and old school way of thinking. But I think don't let that dishearten you. The industry is definitely ramping up and changing for the better. And yeah, it's a great place to be.
Yeah. And also the technological change that we're seeing even here in Brisbane is a great place for engineering as well. So what do you think it really means to be an engineer here in our own backyard?
It's really exciting to me. So born and bred in Brisbane, being able to be an engineer and create spaces for people and create transport solutions for people in Brisbane has been so enjoyable for me. And the total highlight of what I do is being able to look around every single day and see the projects that I've worked on and see how they impact people and they impact society on a broader level. Brisbane at the moment is just booming when it comes to opportunities for engineering. There are a lot of different head offices that are setting up place here in so many different engineering disciplines, which is really exciting for technology and the whole STEM field within Brisbane. But as a civil engineer, I suppose we've got this huge transport piece happening at the moment in our city. We're a really interesting city in that we've got quite a lot of bridges because we've got this river that runs straight through. So we need to be connected across this quite challenging piece of geographical landscape. So as a civil engineer, I suppose I'll drive through the Legacy Way Tunnel, which was the first project that I worked on as a grad. And
Whoa.
just being able to, go through that and have people say to you that don't know that you've worked on it, hey, isn't the Legacy Tunnel great? And I'm like, yes, it's awesome. And also giving back to Legacy, because that's a big part of that tunnel too that a lot of people don't know about. A percentage of tolls do go to Legacy, which is a wonderful initiative, and being able to help on that bigger level. And the end of last year, I had a barbecue at one of the barbecues that we put in on Kingsford Smith Drive, which was another project that I'd worked on for a really long time. And I was just staring back down the Riverwalk, watching people run towards me, doing their fitness routines, and just thinking about how cool it was that 4 years ago, we were sitting around a meeting room table, looking at this design on paper, trying to figure out how we're going to build this thing. And the challenges that it presented building on the Brisbane River, and looking at that and then being able to look down and watch just so subconsciously change their routine to maybe adapt that Riverwalk structure as part of their run, or walk their dog along it. And the people that are now driving down there and not obstructed by the traffic that used to be on that road, it's such an exciting thing to be a part of, to walk around the city and to be able to use the amenity that you have built in your career. And I get really excited talking about it, but I do. And I work in rail now, and rail is an industry that I'd never worked in before. And I am now a super passionate rail buff. And I've learned so much about rail and the importance of rail as a mass transport carrier, but also from a freight point of view and how that impacts our regional zones around Australia. So, it's engineering is this wonderful butterfly effect, and Brisbane at the moment is a really exciting place to be. And being born and bred here and getting to see all the positive things that we've been able to achieve in these projects as a team, there are so many amazing people involved in these projects, has just been the most exciting thing about my career to date. For sure.
Yeah, all the amazing people that are involved in the projects just feed straight into all the awesome people that then get to use these projects. Like what a pinch yourself moment, seeing something go from like drawings and plans and renders to a reality, and the real people of Brisbane are using them. So I understand why you're so excited about it.
So exciting. And I did the inner city bypass on-ramp, which is a tiny little on-ramp from the Bowen Bridge Road off-ramp, if you're familiar with Brisbane. And I was kind of the client's rep on that job, but we set up a row of cars to drive down it as the first people to drive down it for a bit of a media event for the client. And even just coming down that and now seeing people just use it as part of their routine. And my Uber driver took it the other day, and just like as part of a regular thing. It's now
5
integrated.
star for that Uber driver.
I'm so excited for him. I never really talk about projects while I'm driving but it was so exciting. It was so much fun. So yeah, it's really cool to be able to work on something that's so tangible, I suppose, that you can see in front of you and you know that it's going to be there for a really long time.
100%. Yeah. How exciting. All right. So we're nearly closing off for today. But we'd really like to know, what is the best piece of advice that you think you've ever been given?
Okay, so it's not really textbook career advice, but the best piece of advice that I think I've ever been given that applies not only to my personal life, but also my professional life is just to treat other people how you'd like to be treated. So it's something that I never really thought of as applying to my career, like I just said, but I think for me, engineering can be such a stressful profession and it's quite fast paced and there's a lot of putting fires out and things move at a really quick progression, but we deal with a lot of people, like we were saying earlier. It's so people centric. So to tie that back and to be able to treat other people with a bit of kindness and empathy, I found has gotten me a really long way. And it earns you respect, and it doesn't matter who you're talking to, whether it be, you know, your C-suite executives in these big multinational corporations that we were talking about earlier, or whether it's the guys and girls that are building your projects for you on site. It doesn't matter who, but just treat them like you'd like to be treated. And I feel like that just gets you so much further than putting on this professional facade. And I think a lot of engineers feel like they have to do that sometimes because we're super logical, problem solving, list maker type people on the exterior, but deep down, I think everybody likes to be treated with kindness. So definitely, if there's something that you could apply to both your career and your personal life, it's just to treat everyone how you like to be treated.
That is so lovely. 100%, a little bit more kindness would definitely not go astray, especially as you said, like engineers, we like to think of ourselves as logical, but yeah, just a bit more of that person to person interaction. That's what we're all here for. But no,
Right.
thank you so much, Jen, for joining us today, for walking us through some of those awesome trials and tribulations and how you've bounced back from it. You're clearly so passionate. It's so exciting to hear that you're getting to continue that cycle and get more voices in civil engineering, especially here in Brisbane heard. Definitely an exciting opportunity for other people coming up the ranks as well.
Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to meet all the future budding engineers in the future that are going to graduate. It's going to be great.
No, it's so exciting. Yes, thank you so much again, Jen. And that's all today for today's episode of Ready STEM Go. Thank you for listening. A big thank you again to Genevieve De Michele for joining us today. Please join us again for future episodes. And also, please join our Facebook group. QUT STEM is for me with a number 4 to keep up to date with all the events and resources you can access. Thank you, guys.